Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so thrilled that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. Our guest today is Maureen Llewellyn. She's here to celebrate her debut book. It's called The Day the Holidays Blew Away. We also have a fantastic conversation about her experience as a special needs teacher. Before we invite Maureen into the studio, we want to invite you to a very special live event we are taking part of. It's called Rockland Day, and it is happening in beautiful Rockland, Massachusetts on June 18th, 2020. We would love to see you there. We would love to amaze you with my magic and also have you come over and visit us at our booth where we'll be giving away books. Yeah, it'd be great for you to win a book. Check it out. It's happening June 18th, 2020, Rockland Day, beautiful Rockland, Massachusetts. Join us right now from the St. Louis area in the state of Missouri. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut picture book. It's called The Day the Holidays Blew Away. Please welcome to the show, Maureen Llewellyn. Hey, Maureen, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. And I'm really happy Maureen was sharing with me that just before we started our interview, tornadoes ripped through her area. And I guess it's kind of appropriate that we're here talking about the day the holidays blew away.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're all good.
That's good. Now, tell me, was the book inspired by these tornadoes that seem to visit you folks too often?
Actually, no. So I started writing. I'm an early childhood special ed teacher. I've been one for. I'm just finishing my 25th year, and when I was a new teacher, I was looking for St. Patrick's Day books, and I couldn't find any, 25 years. Now there's a ton, but I couldn't find any that I really, really loved. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to write my own. And so I would write a bit and then I'd put it away. And then I'd write a little bit more and then I get angry with it because I did it in rhyme and it would become frustrating. And so I'd tuck him away again. And I did this for a long time, obviously, since it was only published a year ago. So I finally pulled it out and I was just going to see what I could do with it. And I finished it up. So the best of what I thought it was going to be. And I shipped it off to a publisher and I waited. And several months later, they contacted me and they liked it and they wanted to move forward with it. So it's all brand new for me, but it's been an exciting ride.
Yeah. That must have been really exciting to finally have gotten that letter back that, yeah, we love it.
It was surreal. Like it was an email and I had just pulled up in front of my house and I don't know, something was dinging on my phone and I looked and I opened it and I was reading it because it was a link to set up an online conversation. And I was like, wait, what does this mean? And so it was really the step prior to. So they wanted to talk to me and just kind of get a feel for what I thought the book would look like and what I, the path that I was thinking and having never done this before in my life, I was like, well, I mean, you kind of tell me the path. What do I need to do? And so I set up a time and it was actually a snow day from work. So it all worked out very well. And, but I had a house full of kids. And so I went out into my car and had the conversation because I'm like, the last thing I need are, kids, husband, dogs, everything going crazy. Had a conversation and it rolled from there. So, it's been great.
That's wonderful. So tell us about the book, please.
Okay. So, like I said, I was trying to find something about that would celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I, come from an Irish family. My mom's family is all over in Ireland. It's always just been a great holiday for us. And, but I didn't know really what to do with it. Like do you celebrate the day? And then it just kind of hit me like, well, maybe he lost his holiday. And then he went and found all of these other holidays on his journey. So, and as the teacher part of me, I was like, this is great because we can discuss Valentine's Day and we can discuss, the different months and the different holidays that are in that. So it kind of grew from there. And he has a friend named Calendar, and a wind comes and blows all of Calendar's months away. And he goes out on a journey, and he goes from holiday to holiday to try and find his special day.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Lots of fun. I have to take a minute to applaud you in being a teacher, a special needs teacher for 25 years. My beautiful wife just retired from being a special needs teacher in the Boston system for over 34 years.
Awesome.
And so she hit the finish line.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and teachers do not get the respect or the recognition that they deserve. And so I wanted just to make sure that we take a minute to recognize the great service that you and all the other teachers out there are doing for kids and for our nation.
Thank you. I absolutely love it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I work with 3 to 5 year old, primarily deaf students, but I kind of have a little mixture of kids, and they are fabulous and fun, and it's the best age because everything is new and exciting, and they don't even know that they're learning, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
can we talk a little bit more about that? Just that idea, because I really want parents to appreciate that everything that you're doing with your kids at that age is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading an article today that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus is going to come back to life. And one of the things about that circus is that everything that happened in that circus was for the first time. And it's the biggest, even though they did it yesterday in Providence. But this is the first time anywhere in the world that this has ever happened. And that would get everybody in the arena really excited. Well, that's happening with your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds every single minute of every single day. And I think when we are mindful of that, it's a lot of fun for us because it helps us re-experience. How do you stay mindful? Because you're dealing with this for the first time, like the ringmaster in Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus is telling people 365 days a year. This is the first time this has ever happened.
Right.
And he's very excited about it. How do you keep your excitement when the kid learns to tie his shoes for the first time? And
because it's you see the process of it. And I think that's the best thing. We do a lot with early literature, early literacy. We do emergent readers, even though I would never expect that my 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are reading, but they're learning about books. They've got these little paper little books that are repetitive, and they learn to turn pages and they learn to touch words. And by the end of the week, they've memorized it. And it's amazing because you see where they were on Monday and you see where they are at the end of the week. And you can't help but be excited for them because they've got this treasured thing. And that happens with everything, when we're counting or when they get a new number or, when we're singing a new song. And by Wednesday of that week, they're just kind of humming it as they're playing. And that they never heard that one before. Mm-hmm. And now it's in their repertoire. Like they can now go home, and actually it's kind of fun though. I do get some messages from parents, because some of my kids have some articulation errors. And so it's sometimes difficult to figure out what it is that they're singing. And so I've had a couple messages from one of my parents, like, we're really trying. What is the song? And so then I send it, I usually find it on YouTube, a version of it, and I'll send it to them on our little app that we have for our classroom. And they're like, that's it. That's it. And, and the kid knew the song totally. And they're like, now I completely understand where they're at. And you can't help but be drawn into them.
Yeah. So
they're
neat.
just fun.
Yeah. That's really exciting. I remember many over 30 years ago, I was working in human services and was volunteering in a preschool in the hospital that I was working at. And I remember there was this one child, and she wanted to count how many coins there were. And so she counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I goes, that's great. So how many coins do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. That means you have how many coins? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that switch hadn't gone off yet. And so I was like, okay, I don't quite understand this. But 3 or 4 days later, when I was back over there, she's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so how many coins do you have? I have 5 coins. I'm like, yes, whoa. And it was like magical.
It is. And I keep a fair amount of data. I'm sure your wife did as well. And, it's at the end of the school year right now. We're wrapping everything up, and it's so amazing to go back through and see, when I was taking data on them, at the end of August, and where we were in the middle of September, and you just see, like, they had no letters. They knew no uppercase letters. And then they, kind of had a couple, and now they have all 26 uppercase letters, and they're telling me some of the sounds, they're just, it's amazing. That child has completely changed in, a year.
Yep. And in addition to learning your letters and learning how to count and learning that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 5, they're also learning how to get along with each other. They're learning
absolutely.
How to share. They're discovering that the world does not necessarily revolve around them, something they're probably not happy to learn about.
Well, and what's really beneficial in my classroom, I have an integrated classroom. So I have 6 children that have IEPs, so with special needs, and I have 6 which they consider typically developing. And I'm very fortunate, and I love it. And I would not change this makeup of it, because both sets of children learn from one another, and they get along seamlessly. Like they don't necessarily notice, like, oh, you have hearing aids, or they might notice it one time and be like, what's that? Oh, well, that helps little, Susie hear. And they're like, oh, all right. And they just move on and play. And it's pretty fabulous to watch how easily children get along, and how easily, not to say that, somebody takes a toy, that happens all the time, but they just really blend well together and don't really notice any differences.
Yeah. Yes, when the time I was mentioning to you, I was working in a hospital at a school with kids with severe developmental disabilities. And my job was to integrate those kids at least a couple of hours a week into typical classrooms, so-called typical classrooms. And I know that they hired me, the hospital hired me specifically because they thought I was going to fail. I had no background on this. I was just this guy who was loud and could get attention and could advocate. And they didn't think that this integration stuff was a good idea. So they said, let's get this guy. He's going to fall on his face, and our kids will be safe in our little hospital school. And there was all sorts of objections. Oh, the typical kids are going to make fun of our kids, and they're not going to be able to get along. There's no way for them to communicate, and blah, 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 blah. It was a huge success. Yeah. And the kids at the typical school absolutely adored our kids. And for a fourth grader who was struggling with reading, our kids weren't really able to do anything for themselves, but they could listen to a story. Yeah. And so one of those fourth graders who was looked at themselves as a failure because they struggled with reading, suddenly they had an attentive audience, and their reading skills just blossomed because they had this friend who just loved hearing every single word they were saying.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have a little friend that we're really working with him to initiate play, just to kind of, you can just see he wants to play, doesn't have the steps, doesn't have the skills yet. And so we're trying to teach them, and it's starting, and it's starting with, a typical friend. And that typical friend is amazing because he recognizes it and he knows it's a big deal. No one's told him it's a big deal. And he will stop out on the playground when the one little friend comes up, like, I'm going to play with you. And he will stop doing whatever he's doing, and they will play tag, or they will, he'll touch him, and then they go right. I think it's some form of tag. I'm not really sure their game, but they know the rules of the game. And it's unbelievable that I get to witness it, and I get to see that, because that wasn't even happening 2 weeks ago. And, I couldn't ask for a better job. Yeah. Really and truly could not.
Well, you may not have asked for a better job, but you took on a new job as an author.
I did.
And that's really cool. One of the things I was wondering, because you mentioned that you're dealing with kids who are deaf and hearing impaired. If a kid is deaf or severely hearing impaired, what kind of benefits would those kids get from having a grandparent or an uncle or an aunt read to them? Because I'm sure their parents are meeting with a special educator like you and learning, but the grandparents may not. And they might be coming over and visiting, or the aunts or uncles coming over and visiting, and they want to connect with this little kid, and it's hard to connect with little kids anyways, but this is maybe even more of a challenge. Is there a way that a book can help bring those
I think books, depending on the hearing loss, a book can help any kid, and it might not be presented in a traditional manner. You've got your typical kids who aren't going to sit with you while you decide to read a book to them. You might have to improvise and, be on the fly with it and change words. We oftentimes will sit and just talk about the pictures. We kind of go to whatever level they are vocabulary wise, and, point things out and, point out the colors. There's always something that you can discuss. And, illustrations are an amazing opportunity to do that. When with a grandparent, with parent, with anybody, opening up a book, you can talk about the characters. You can talk about, not necessarily the print that's provided. You can talk about, with mine, there's different holidays. So they could talk about a Christmas tree, or they could talk about a heart, or, that he's looking for a shamrock. And it's all based on vocabulary and language, because really any child is going to benefit from working on language, by giving them more vocabulary, by, providing them a model of pronunciation and of, smaller language structures to larger language structures. Any child will benefit from that. And, what else is better than, snuggling up on a chair and looking at a book with grandma or grandpa?
Yeah. And I'm imagining that kid who is in your class and learning to sign could teach a few signs when they see the leprechaun, or when they see the Christmas tree. Teach grandma and grandpa how to sign.
We do. So we incorporate sign into everything. We'll do the alphabet, and it's real fun. We're at the end of the year now. So, in the beginning, they were just kind of all looking at me like, what are you doing? By now, they're starting to form the letters, and they're, learning easy words. But, to kind of help facilitate communication, they have figured things out. They have a better language than I do with some of the kids. I don't know how they do it. They understand what the other child is saying sometimes when, adults are like at a loss as to what it is that, a particular child is asking for. And oftentimes I'll have a 4-year-old going, well, he wants a Rice Krispie treat. Oh, of course. you know, but you know, it's watching, you know, and I'm not always a huge fan of using the word, you know, a typical child. It's just,
I understand.
It doesn't really necessarily, it works for an explanation, but, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it. But it's so fun to watch those typical children working at communicating with kids that have special needs, that don't communicate as they do. And they figure it out. And that, again, is one of the most beautiful things about watching the kids interact, because it's just, this is how so-and-so communicates, and I need to learn. And I remember years ago, I had one little girl that was just obsessed with signs. Like, she just wanted, because I had a little boy that was signing, and she just wanted to sign. So I made a little notebook for her, like a binder of all easy signs and stuff. And her mom said she would go home and she would just scour the book and she would practice the signs so she could come in and show her friend the signs. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share this real quick story. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I didn't tell you, I do educational magic shows at schools around the country. And I was at a very rural school in Pennsylvania. And one of the things I do, instead of staying backstage and to make my big grand entrance, I'll say hi to the kids as they come into the auditorium. And there was a group of kids, and as they sit down, I'll just go down the line and I'll say, hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, and whatever, you know, I don't try to match the language with the kid. I just do that, and the kids get a kick out of it. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye, the girl at the end, she had a sign interpreter. And so when I got to her, I just made the sign, my very only sign. I said, you have a beautiful smile. And she just beamed, just lit up. And we had this instant connection, just making that little effort to communicate. And it's amazing. Kids know that. You're talking about kids getting that instinctually, that just trying makes a huge difference. And I think that's the same. I was having a conversation with somebody today, having trouble with a teenager, an older teenager. And I think that if we as parents, however old our kids are, if we remember that understanding starts with communication, and we should start trying to make that effort that we're communicating and not ordering and not dictating and not teaching, but just trying to communicate with each other. I think our family life would be a whole lot smoother.
Well, and I mean, just think of it as an adult, you know, you are more apt to do something if somebody comes and talks to you, you know, if you explain something, or, you know, if you've got somebody coming and explaining a situation or a problem, you would take it completely different if they came in and ordered you, I need you to do this now, you know, and I think that is very important, you know, show up, talk, figure it out. You know, it really will do a whole lot more than, you know, being a dictator and you're going to do this because I'm the adult and you're not.
Yeah. Well, I'm the talk show host, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that St. Patrick's Day is one of your favorite holidays.
Yes.
Is there a holiday in the day the holidays blew away that may not be as well known, that people reading it might be surprised to see included?
No, probably not. I hit some of the major ones because I was trying, again, as kind of the teacher brain, like trying to make sure that I got all of the ones that they might already have some information about. 4th of July is in there. That might be a different one. But they go through Valentine's Day. They go through Christmas. They go through Thanksgiving. They go through the 4th of July, Halloween. What am I missing? Easter, the spring. They kind of touch on different things because there is a little part that kind of talks about months as well. So I was just trying to, originally, as I was writing it, trying to fit in everything that I thought was important that I would want to share as a teacher of a book to cover. And it because it covers all the holidays, it's not necessarily a St. Patrick's Day book or a Valentine's Day book. It covers everything. So I kind of wanted that too.
Yeah.
That it could be read in June, or it could be, celebrated in April, not necessarily just around March or,
whatever.
my St. Patrick's Day. But
That's great. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the day the holidays blew away and find out more about Maureen Llewellyn.
Well, so the book was published through Storybook Genius Publishing, which is kind of funny. They're in Missouri too. Never planned on that at all, but they are in my backyard, a little farther away, but it is available through them. It's also available through pretty much everywhere. Amazon, Target. I Googled it. So, as a first-time author, I'm excited by everything that I see. And I would periodically just Google it. And I don't even know the language it was available in. I just took a screenshot and I sent it to my mom. I'm like, I don't know where this is, but wherever they are, they can get this. So, they pretty much Google it and you will find it.
That's wonderful.
It's been very, they've done an amazing job for me getting it out there. Now it's my job to introduce it.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job introducing it to our audience, and we've had a really fun time speaking with the author of The Day the Holidays Blew Away, the debut picture book from our guest, a veteran teacher, Maureen Llewellyn. Maureen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have a really, really special guest, Jason Broughton. He is the director of the National Library Service, down in Washington, D.C. We've really been looking forward to speaking with Jason. We had to reschedule the interview a number of times because Jason was called to appear before Congress. Those important guys. Although I can't believe Congress came before the Reading with Your Kids podcast. But you don't want to miss it. The National Library Service, it's a great resource, and they're doing amazing things for folks in this country. Check it out. Next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Maureen Llewellyn. Please be sure to check out The Day the Holidays Blew Away. And we're so glad that Maureen didn't get blown away before our interview. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Belcastro, Ashley Contreras, Mirabella Q. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. But most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.